of course, it's not clear to look into the next 10 or 15 years. And from my side, in the new strategy world, you can't have only one picture from the future. We're working in scenarios because we think, and I'm very convinced, that to work with the scenarios, we are much more flexible regarding the future. And we can deal with these uncertainties which we have right now.
Peak, the innovation talk by ekipa. Peak is an in-depth eye-to-eye exchange between equals with which we want to deliver knowledge and impulses for you to benefit from. Our founder Justin talks to guests about innovation, digital transformation, and the potential of the digital generation.
In today's episode of Peak, I am talking to Dr. Paul Hünecke. Paul is Head of Strategy and Principles for Legal Affairs and Integrity at the Volkswagen Group and is currently responsible for a huge company-wide project and thus for a rollout of legal and integrity principles within the whole Volkswagen Group. I've rarely met and talked to someone who's responsible for such a huge and long-term project. And we've been talking about how to keep track and overview of the whole project, how to involve every relevant stakeholder, and which tools to use when you want to run and conduct such a company-wide project. I really enjoyed the insights and learnings from Paul, and I hope you do too. Enjoy this episode.
Paul, welcome to Peak, the innovation talk by ekipa. I'm glad you're our guest today.
Hello, Justin. I'm very happy to discuss with you the future of tomorrow.
Absolutely. So let's start with our 6 peaky questions. How would you describe innovation with just 3 words?
With 3 words. So innovation is for me the combination of existing things.
Combination of existing things. Okay. Which everyday problem that you're familiar with would you like to solve with an innovative technology or to be solved with an innovative technology?
So I donated my kidney to a best friend of mine. So my answer would be to find more technologies to produce artificial organs to save the world, to save the humans in the world.
Oh wow! You donated your kidney to a friend of yours?
Yeah, 5 years ago. Yeah. And so I saw the problem. I'm very familiar with this topic and with this field, and it would be happy to have much more artificial organs, so that we save the lives in the world.
That's really impressive. What have you recently posted on social media?
Of course, future of ethics things.
Of course. What do you prefer, working alone or working in a team?
I'm working in a team, definitely. And I can say at this point, I have the dream team, the best team ever here with me.
No doubts about that. Driving a car or driving a train?
Definitely a car driver.
Okay, that fits to your job, I guess. And last question, Audi or Volkswagen?
I prefer the Volkswagen Group with all the brands, Audi, Porsche, Skoda, Seat, etc.
Okay, so you don't prefer one of them since it's the same group or company group in the end.
I'm very happy and I have the honor to drive every car and to test every car. Currently, I drive the Audi e-tron. It's an amazing car.
Yeah, I believe that, definitely. Last question referring to that is because you've been working for both companies, right? So a couple of years ago, you've been working at Audi. Now you're working for Volkswagen. And I would like to gain some insights of your background regarding, your story behind that. So you started working at Audi at different roles, different positions. Then you switched in the same company group to Volkswagen, but to a different role. Maybe you can share some insights with us about how your journey went there and how you ended in your current position.
Okay, so I'm a real Volkswagen guy since 13, 14 years, I think so. Where I'm the Volkswagen Group. I started in Wolfsburg in the group sales department, and roughly after 1 year, I carried over to Audi. I was in the after-sales strategy at Audi. I had my PhD thesis there, and I worked there. It was a great feeling with great passion, great mindset, great speed, of course. at Audi, and after 5 years, based on the family, because we have to decide, I get my daughter, and she was born 9 years ago, and then we decided that I come back and don't travel every weekend home. I come back to Wolfsburg, and then I went to the general secretary. It was in the Winterkorn department in the group strategy. And so I would say the strategy is so the red line in my Volkswagen career. And after the group strategy now, I'm in the integrity and legal affairs strategy in the functional area since 2 years. And it's a great job here with a great team. And we have the honor, and I'm very proud that we can put forward good things for the future.
Where does your enthusiasm for car or mobility companies come from? Is it something where you always said, okay, you want to work for such a company like Audi or Volkswagen, or is it something that evolved or developed within your, I don't know, studies, for example?
It's a good combination of both, I would like to say. So I see it's a future market. It's a product which you can find everywhere in the world. It's fascinating for me to create mobility for our generations to come, and this is the passion and the mindset why I'm a car guy since I was a kid, I would say. Yeah. So everyone who knows which was his first car, etc. And now we have an increasing technology in the car manufacturer sector. We shift from a car manufacturer to a real mobility provider, and that's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So comparing two different roles of yours in the past, the role as an after-sales manager compared to your current role as a head of strategy and principles for legal affairs and integrity, this is something where on the first view, I, as an external person, wouldn't see any synergy between those two roles. You said that the red line is in terms of strategy, right? But maybe you could explain a little bit how it came that you switch your role or your position between a sales position at Audi, I would say, now to a more strategy, legal, integrity, or compliance role at Volkswagen. How did that go in the past, and how did you come to such an interesting position as you have right now?
Yeah. I would like to have two answers of that. The first answer is to have the great opportunity in such a big group to work and collaborate with a lot of brands all over the world, with in a lot of topics in a lot of functional areas or resource. And so it's quite beautiful to have the chance to work from Audi to Skoda to Seat, from the Western world, from the US to China, from after sales, technical development regarding sales, and now integrity and legal affairs. So it's a great bunch of opportunities what you have in such a great workplace. And on the other hand, as you mentioned, the strategy is a red line. So in the after sales department, I developed the strategy or after sales network all over the world, on which places we should have which workshops. And this was the first touch for myself regarding the strategy.
Okay, I see. I think we've been knowing each other for a year or maybe a year and a half, and we got to know each other via LinkedIn actually. So I think I approached you and sent you a message because I thought, okay, head of strategy and principles for legal affairs and integrity sounds like a pretty interesting role and pretty interesting department at Volkswagen as well. And I wanted to learn more about it.
It is an interesting role.
There are any... Sorry?
It is an interesting role.
It is, yeah, actually. And we will learn more about this during our talk today. And I just thought I wanted to find out more about what is your role exactly all about, and what does Volkswagen do in terms of the legal affairs and integrity topics there. And I think during our first conversations and talks and phone calls, we both found out that there are in fact some synergies to digitization topics, to innovation topics, so to the topics that we face at Ekipa with our startup. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about your current role and what topics you are dealing with there.
So it's a bright bunch of activities which we have in our resort. But let me start with integrity and legal affairs resort. It's a new resource since 3 years which we have. We have a group member with Hiltrud Werner who have a seat in our group board, and since 3 or 4 years we implemented this new resort regarding integrity and legal affairs. And what is behind integrity and legal affairs? It is, of course, the integrity stuff. It's all the legal department is behind, the risk management, the compliance area. So all these kind of topics we put under the roof of the integrity and legal affairs department. So this is the first point. And regarding my activities, as the name or the word in my title is said, regarding the strategy. So let's look to the future. What is the future of ethics? What is the future of compliance and legal affairs? And to give the right answers on these questions. This is the one hand, and the other title of my topic is regarding the principle. So we make all the ground stuff regarding the IT management, the HR and budget controlling, which we have, so regarding donations, for example. So all the basic principle of the governance things in our resources is under my responsibility.
Yeah, I see. So how does it work in particular? Can I imagine it like you start by asking yourself the question, what does the future look like? And then make something like a derivation for today's world and say, okay, the future looks like that in, I don't know, 5 or 10 years. And then you say, okay, so based on this future, our current state needs to change this and that, and we need these compliance topics or legal and integrity topics to tackle today, or how does it work in particular?
It's difficult to answer, but the main principle or basic principle is, as a strategy guy, you have to have 2 skills. And the first skill is to create and develop colorful PowerPoint charts. And the other thing is you have to see the future. And the second task is a much more difficult task, which you have to see. But you're simply right. You have to anticipate the future. What are the certainties in the future? What are the uncertainties? And the future, of course, is not clear to look into the next 10 or 15 years. And from my side, in the new strategy world, you can't have only one picture from the future. We're working in scenarios because we think, and I'm very convinced, that to work with the scenarios, we are much more flexible regarding the future. And we can deal with these uncertainties which we have right now.
Let's see. Interestingly, I had another peak talk a couple of days ago, actually, with Nikolai Andersen from Deloitte, and we talked about corporate digital responsibility. And during my preparation for our talk today, I saw a lot of synergies between what you're dealing with at your job and within your strategy of RISE 2030, which we will also talk about during our talk today, and the topic of corporate digital responsibility, where a lot of companies and corporates need to deal with the question of their responsibility in times of digitization and in times of digital transformation, not just for their own company, but for the whole society. Is this topic, corporate digital responsibility, also something that you're dealing with at Volkswagen, especially in your role or your department?
A clear no. We have a separate department regarding the digitization and the IT management, and this is not in my responsibility, but we have a close link to each other. And my premise is don't to work in the ivory tower, so break down the silos and work and collaborate together. And this is what we did in our strategy scenarios. So we collaborate together. And of course, it's Miss Beate Hofer. She is our head of the IT and digitization. And we collaborate with her together. So she was a sponsor in our initiative, Futures of Ethics, because we have a lot of technology stuff in the future and how we deal with that regarding the regulation, the legislation, and these topics, and so we have a close link together.
Okay. Let's talk about your corporate strategy, RISE 2030. Within this strategy, you've set yourself a key goal to be a role model in terms of integrity. And I think this is something that you and your role have to deal with, I assume. I've taken a look at your former role, being responsible for this Together for Integrity program. Maybe you can share some insights regarding this corporate strategy, RISE 2030, regarding this this key goal of being a role model for integrity, and your program Together for Integrity. What are you facing there? How is your approach there? And what does all this strategy have to do with integrity, and how do you try to be a role model in terms of integrity?
Okay, this is a difficult thing on that. But at first I have to mention that it's not the corporate strategy of the Volkswagen Group, it's just a strategy regarding the integrity and legal affairs topics. But the challenge is, or our purpose is to protect what we love. That everything what we do, we have to protect it. Whatever we love, it's worth protecting. So this is our purpose. Driven by integrity to protect what we love. And this is overall our overarching purpose what we have. And behind the purpose, and to cover this purpose, we have 4 clear goals in our RISE 2030 strategy. And for example, one is be a navigator for trust and transparency. It's a clear role what we have. And as you see, this role as a navigator for trust and transparency, it's not a very close role only for the integrity and legal affairs department. So as you see in our strategy, we break down the silos and work and collaborate together so that we have the role for more transparency and for more trust in all the company of the Volkswagen Group. And this is a clear driver to be more transparent and to give you more trust also to you as a stakeholder or to the community which you listen right here. And this is one example to be a role model for integrity. And what is a role model for integrity? It's very hard to say, but on a simple level you can say it's like a benchmark for integrity and legal affairs. Of course, we had a history 4 or 5 years ago. Everybody would say they have no compliance, no integrity, specific parts, and it's not a benchmark. And I would say I'm very convinced since the last 2 or 3 years, and of course under the help of the monitorship, we have increased and implemented a lot of initiative, a lot of measurements, how we can increase our integrity, our compliance, how we can be a resilient future.
Okay, I think it is a great goal that you're aiming for there. But at the same time, I can imagine that there are a lot of hurdles and challenges that you're facing in terms of becoming this role model. How's it going so far? Are there any big challenges, for example, as I can assume, in terms of the cultural change that needs to be done and it needs to be transformed at the same time when becoming such a role model?
Yeah, of course, there are some challenges, and the first challenges was inside our company. So to convince all the people regarding the mindset. Every time I say integrity is working with the heart and with the head. So in both things, you have to convince the people regarding a new mindset. And this, as you mentioned, is a cultural change program which we have implemented here in the Volkswagen Group. And therefore, the first challenge is to pick up the people, to bring them on the same page of all these topics, and to convince them that it's necessary. Every one of the employees is a risk manager by himself. Every one of our employees is a compliance manager by himself. And to break down the silos that everyone have to do or to struggle and to handle with it, it's one of the biggest challenges which we have here.
Now, Volkswagen is an international, or more specifically global company, right? And regarding this cultural change, I personally can imagine that, especially in the international context and in this different cultural backgrounds that the people or the employees of Volkswagen bring to the table, that it's even more difficult to shift this cultural change and to support them to become their, as you said, own risk managers and to roll out this whole integrity strategy. How do you handle that?
Therefore, we implement a long program. It's called Together for Integrity. And my colleague, Tobias Heine, is the head of this program. And here we have clear standards and clear figure and measurements which you have to roll out all over the world and specific for each country, for each culture, and for each brand. So it's very specific, but on the overarching goal, we can safeguarding that we implementing all the points which we would like to address here all over the world. And on the other hand, we collaborate, it's not only an integrity and legal affairs thing, so we collaborate very close, of course, with the HR department. So we have a specialist of the culture change program in the HR department, and Mr. Linde by himself, he is responsible for all the culture change programs all over the world.
Now, the more I learn about that, the more interesting I find it that it seems to be a strategy which is aimed for to be rolled out on a global company-wide level, right? I've to be honest with you, I've never spoken to someone who is responsible or part of the responsibility to do a rollout of such a strategy on a company-wide level, especially at such a huge organization as Volkswagen is. Is it something where you would say it's just an internal thing, or are there any other also external stakeholders, like politicians, for example, supporting that, guiding that, being part of that rollout strategy and integrity topic? Who is part of it? Who's responsible for it? What are the relevant stakeholders?
So we have of course, we did a stakeholder analysis. Who are our stakeholders? But regarding the first point, to come back, how we do it internationally. So I think the key message is to pick all the people up from the first step you want to go. And this was our key success factor, I would like to say. Even as we were at the starting line 1.5 years ago, we don't create and develop everything in the ivory tower. So we did it together with all the brands, with all the people, with all the internal stakeholders at the first point. So what are your recommendations? What are your analytics? What are your foresights in your special departments, for example? And so we created the strategy not alone, and therefore we involved a lot of people here, and we collaborate together with the Future network. And we have implemented a Future network in our company. And what does it mean? These are highly motivated people from all the resorts, from different countries, from different brands, and they work together for example, such as the Future project. And the Future Heads network helped us a lot to figure out and find out the real steering committee, the real steering stuff of the future, and of course to implement all the things in all the channels which we have here. Point one. And point two, regarding the external stakeholders. Here, the external stakeholders, we did the stakeholder analysis, and we also get some sponsors for our Futures of Ethics initiative. For example, El-Hajj was the external sponsor. He is from the Sustainability Council, and he was at the Deutsches Rotes Kreuz. He worked for example, and of course some universities. We have some business of ethics professors as sponsors in our community. And so we involved all the stakeholders internally and externally in our road to our new strategy, WISE 2030. And I think this was a key factor, key solution to figure out all the demands of all the stakeholders.
And all the different perspectives as well, right? So when you talk about professors, of young people bringing new ideas to the table, internal stakeholders, different departments, all of them, I assume, have different perspectives, different approaches and ideas for that, all over strategy. And if they bring them to the table, it could also be quite hard to connect and combine them, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is. It's a lot of dialogue, it's a lot of communication stuff. And this was the reason why it took over 1 year regarding the analysis. But at the end, it was more efficient, because I'm definitely not a fan, and it's all strategy work from yesterday to develop the strategy in the ivory tower and only for your resort, for your department. So I'm convinced, and the Futures of Ethics, and with the end, our strategy, WISE 2030 road shows that we have a lot of success with this way to pick up everyone on this road.
From what you just described, I do see a lot of similarities to our typical innovation projects that we're conducting, because you do have a long-term goal, right? And at the same time, you do not exactly know what this goal in the end will look like in detail, and you're working towards this goal to reach a specific state at this goal. And need to bring different stakeholders to the table, need to bring different perspectives to the table, and want to create something within this journey which is not quite tangible in the end. And I think this is something what we also always experience when we run our innovation projects. We take a long-term goal in the focus, or a specific state in the future where what we want to achieve with a specific client or company that we're working together with, and it is not always quite tangible, this topic or this challenge or question that we are working on. And we also bring a lot of different stakeholders to the table and try to combine their perspectives and want to find the best way or the best solutions towards this goal in the end. And I, from my personal experience, also see that it is most of the time quite difficult to take a not that tangible goal or topic, to combine different stakeholders and to keep them on track, right? And to keep them on this path towards this goal. How do you handle it? So more from an in-depth perspective, do you set yourself specific milestones? Do you set specific incentives for all these stakeholders? How do you handle this? Yeah, how would I say, project management in the end? How do you combine all these stakeholders and don't lose your goal in the end?
I think the first step was to develop a purpose which fits all together. And this was a key message, so that everyone have the purpose in his mind. What is my big target picture in the future?
Is it a sentence or?
It's a sentence, yeah. Driven by integrity to protect what we love. This was our purpose. And to develop the purpose, it's only one sentence, it's only a sum of words. But to develop the sentence, everything is behind the sentence, was a big challenge, of course.
How much time, sorry for interrupting, but how much time did you invest in developing this purpose and developing this sentence?
Just a quarter year, so roughly 3 months, because it's not only a sentence. So behind the sentence is everything. Everything is behind the purpose, driven by integrity to protect what we love. Yeah, these are the two parts of our purpose. And again, as mentioned before, driven by integrity is the first part, that in every action what you do, you have to drive by integrity, even if it's on the personal thing at home or at work. So driven by integrity in everything what you do. And after implementing and develop the strategy, we have concrete milestones and concrete initiatives behind our strategy. So we have four targets in our strategy, and each target have 2 sponsors, and the sponsors are not only from our resort of the integrity and legal affairs. So we have again break down the silos and invited other board members or other employees from our and other leaders from our department to be a sponsor of one concrete strategic goal what we have. And behind one strategic goal, we have concrete initiatives behind. And for each initiative, we have one initiative lead and one working team, and they are all together, working together, and have milestones and concrete deliverables for each initiative. And at the end, you have to cut in on all the big piece in different small slices. And so at the smallest level, we have in each initiative the concrete milestones, concrete deliverables with concrete KPIs that we can measure it. And so we cascade it upwards from one initiative to a strategic goal. From the strategic goal is below our purpose. And this is the strategy cascade, which works very well until yet. And now we're in the starting phase right now to bring everyone together and to kick off and launch all the initiatives behind.
Okay. Regarding such a huge strategy rollout in the end and such a long-term strategy or project that you're working on, I do have one more very detailed question that I'm also personally interested in. Do you use or do you have any hints or tips for our community as well? Which tools for project management in this case you can use, or which software you use for running this whole project and keeping an overview of every different aspect of this project?
Yeah, please, my first hint is keep it simple. Yeah, don't have so much KPIs, don't have an overarching measurement set, etc. of these. For ourselves, we have a clear KPI tracking, only one KPI per strategic goal. So we have 4 strategic goals, 4 KPIs, that's it. And how we measure it, we have the Microsoft SharePoint solution all over the world, and it's I have Liam is our techie guy in our department, and so he developed in such a short time a SharePoint online version where we have an online strategy manager where we can see or measure all the KPI, all the initiative, which initiative leads, what are the deliverables, until when there are the next milestones, etc. So you have a traffic light system behind. So it's a very easy and simple system. And on the other hand, a strategy work is not a right KPI work and to have the milestones. Strategy work is to pick up all the people, to work together, to collaborate together, to bring all the people behind the strategy. What is their solution? What is their role regarding the strategy? This is much more communication if you want to have a successful implementation of a strategy. So it's my first thing is don't focus so much on KPIs and milestones, much more focus on the cultural change, on the implementation of the things what you want to do.
So summarize, keeping it simple and focusing on the people's business behind it.
Thank you. Much better than my 10 sentences.
All right. The strategy is called RISE 2030, and I think that there's a reason for why it is called RISE 2030. Let's imagine that we are now in the year 2030, and you've been working on the strategy and on the whole project for the past decade, I would say. What is the state that you want to have achieved until then? What is the world, the Volkswagen world, in terms of integrity that we're living in the year 2030?
Yeah. On the one hand, we want to be more resilient as a company. So to be resilient in all the shocks, all the pandemics which are coming in front of us, and the amplitudes are very closer than we have it today. So we will have a lot of more shocks and pandemics in the future, which interrupting us and our business. And so we have to create a resilient, a robust company behind. This is my first goal, my first intention. Another one regarding the external point of view is to be much more transparent and to create much more trust regarding all our stakeholders. And the stakeholders are PR managers, marketing managers, our employees, of course, our normal customers for our mobility services, etc., etc. So we have a lot of stakeholders all over the world, and they want to speak with us. They want to learn from us. They want to that we share insights with them, and so be much more transparent with all our topics which we have, why we do some things and why we do not do some things. So we have a lot of dilemma because we are a business company. On the one hand, we have to generate profit. On the other hand, we have to work with ethical standards. And on this dilemma, we have to communicate about this and to give much more transparency regarding this point and to generate much more trust. So trust, transparency, resilience are the three key points which I would like to see in 10 years.
Thanks for these very interesting insights until now. Coming to our next topic, I have some questions from our community indeed. So we communicated to our community that you will be our guest today and we will talk about future of ethics and the future of integrity in the Volkswagen universe, I would say. And they sent us a lot of questions and we collected some of them to bring them to our talk today. And I will just read them out to you. Maybe you have some answers to that. Coming to the first question regarding integrity. Volkswagen, a couple of years ago, has been in the news quite a lot regarding this emission topic. You will know what I'm talking about. And the question here is, how has this emission topic that Volkswagen has been in the news about a lot has affected the compliance and integrity department or functions at the Volkswagen Group?
Yeah, based on that, we moved a big steps forward since the past 3 or 4 years based on the diesel issue which we have had. And a big driver for that was the monitorship. I don't know if everyone knows this. We had for 3 years a US monitorship, Larry Thompson, our company, and he helped us a lot to increase the processes, to bring more resources on all the integrity compliance topics, to struggle it out in all over the world, and this helped us a lot. And we had a big move forward since the last 3 or 4 years. And I would say that we are have the gold standard right now and are on the benchmark, or on the way to a benchmark level regarding integrity and compliance.
Okay. Next question, and I think this fits perfectly to my key learnings from our talk today regarding the people's business and the huge project that you're working on. How do you lead a team from the home office, especially in your position and in your responsibility for this whole project that you're running? Where has it become more difficult due to the pandemic and due to the home office situation to organize everything, to structure everything, and to bring all those different stakeholders that we've been talking about to the same table, just on a virtual level?
The key factor for that we don't have had the hierarchical working collaboration thing here. So we're everyone on the same level with the future heads I mentioned before. The future head network was a network all over the world, people from other resources, etc., and they helped us. And they are intrinsic motivated to work on these topics. And it doesn't mention, or it doesn't matter if it's from home, if we sit in one room, if we are linked via Skype or via Teams, etc. So it shows that it worked with these new digital formats. It was the best example because on not only on one point in the last year, we sit on one table. The whole analysis phase with the future head network we created over the digital new formats, and it shows that it worked.
Okay, I see. Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot with people who are responsible for specific projects or strategies within companies, especially from the innovation departments, and I find it really interesting how different the companies handle it. I mean, everyone has the same circumstances currently, right? So everyone needs to work from, or almost everyone needs to work from a home office, and almost everyone needs to handle remote teams or virtual teams. But at the same time, I always find it really interesting how different the approaches are. Some are just running from one meeting to another and just trying to handle all those people being involved there. Others are just working virtually on PowerPoint presentations, for example, as you mentioned it before as well. And I think this is something that, where there's no golden rule that you need to follow for being successful in these uncertain times right now. But I really like your approach and what you just described. Coming to the last question from our community that they sent us and we selected for asking you today. Volkswagen is the parent company of the whole group, right? And of course also has a lot of responsibility for the specific subsidiaries companies being part of the whole group. And of course you do have a group-wide or company-wide compliance and integrity topic or requirements. But at the same time, I personally can imagine, obviously the one who asked this question also, there are some cultural differences from different countries. How do you handle that? For example, for Skoda in the Czech Republic or for Seat in Spain, do you just roll out the same strategy for all these countries, or do you also mention or take in regard different circumstances in those countries and take this into your overall strategy there?
No, you can't. It's a simple answer, because of the different cultures and the different regions. So what we did, we have a master framework for the must-have things which you have to do. And for everyone, for example, is we have one code of conduct all over the world. We have one risk management system which works all over the world. We have one whistleblower system which worked all over the world. So these are the basic standards which we have all over the world. But on the other thing, we have some deliverables in our toolbox which we have to adapt specifically for each region, because some things work better for the Chinese region, and some things working better for the Western world, for example, for the US. And so we have to deliverable by deliverable, measurement by measurement, to check up and analyze which worked for everyone, which is a global standard, and which one are specific things for each region.
All right, so a combination of basic structures that are viable for every country, for the whole group worldwide, and then some country-specific standards where you also take in regard the country-specific framework.
And the basics are the must-haves, which every region, every company, every subsidiary have to implement.
One additional question from my perspective. You just mentioned a whistleblower strategy. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? This sounds quite interesting.
It's a whistleblower system. It's an anonymous channel where all the employees can send to the anonymous channel information which things don't work very wrong. Don't work very well, which are working wrong. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Cool. Coming to the end of our talk, I have 3 fast or quick questions left, which I will also just ask you, and maybe you have 3 quick answers for these 3 questions. Starting with the first one, what is your personal goal for the year 2021?
To implement the first initiatives regarding our strategy RISE 2030.
Okay. From your point of view, which specific technology will have the biggest impact on our world and our society within the next couple of years?
Specific from my side, it's artificial intelligence and the robotic things regarding the human-robotic interaction.
Okay. And the last question, and this is always our last question in these talks, what is your personal advice for our community, or as we call them, for the digital generation?
Good question. Use all the information, challenge all the information, and share all the information, or share only the good information.
Okay, and keep it simple. This is something that I totally
keep it simple, right?
From this talk. Great, Paul. Thanks a lot for all these insights regarding this huge integrity and compliance project that you are responsible for at the Volkswagen Group. Thanks for being part of ekipa. I'm looking forward to hear in maybe 1 or 2 years how you're going there and which progress you're making. So once again, thanks a lot for sharing these insights at Peak, and looking forward to talk to you again in the future.
Challenge us. Thank you, Justin.
Do you want to know more about the talk or the topic? On ekipa.de/peak, you can find every information about our episodes, guests, and topics. We will also keep you updated on our social media profiles. The link you can find in the description box. See you next time at Peak, the innovation talk by ekipa.